Father. You may be seated. Let's welcome Miss Ashleigh Wilson to the platform for Torah Portion.
Morning. All right, cool. I'm on. Shabbat Shalom. All right, everyone. Today's Torah portion is Miketz. It's found in Genesis chapter 41 through 44, verse 17. And Miketz means at the end. This portion is a very familiar story, I would say, to most of us. We begin with Pharaoh's dreams. Joseph is in prison in Egypt. And so we begin with Pharaoh's dreams, the 7 plump, healthy cows, and then the 7 emaciated cows that come up and eat the healthy cows, and then the 7 plump ears of grain or corn, and then the 7 emaciated, withering grains that come up and devour the plump. And no one in Pharaoh's kingdom could interpret these dreams. And Joseph is called. He interprets the dream. He's put over Pharaoh's house. He's put over basically all of Egypt. And then his brothers come in the years of famine to acquire grain. There's a song and dance of the brothers coming and going and coming, and Joseph testing them. And that's where that portion ends. It's an incredibly rich, full portion. You could spend a very long time just in these few chapters. Joseph's story overall is a beautifully redemptive one. But there's one part of this portion, of this story, that as I read through, it just really stood out to me. Holy Spirit really used it to minister to me in a very profound way. And I'm praying that it will minister to some of you today. In Genesis 41, verses 9 through 13, it says, "Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, 'Today I remember my faults.' Pharaoh was angry with his servants, and he put me and the chief baker in the custody of the captain of the guard. He and I had dreams on the same night. Each dream had its own meaning. Now a young Hebrew, a slave of the captain of the guards, was there with us. We told him our dreams. He interpreted our dreams for us, and each had its own interpretation. It turned out just the way he interpreted them to us. I was restored to my position, and the other man was hanged. And so the Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and they brought him out of the dungeon." The chief cupbearer said, "I remember my offenses today." 2 years. It had been 2 years since Joseph had interpreted the dreams of the cupbearer and the baker. 2 years since Joseph had asked the cupbearer to show kindness to him by remembering him and by mentioning him to Pharaoh. 2 years in captivity in prison, likely feeling forgotten, hopeless. I wonder if he felt bitterness towards the cupbearer for forgetting him. Maybe he was angry that he was forgotten. Maybe he was angry with Yahweh, because it's important to remember that faith and anger are not mutually exclusive. Maybe he felt like Yahweh had forgotten him too. And maybe you feel forgotten by Yahweh, by people. It has been a very hard year for our family in a lot of ways. We've had many blessings, but we've also had a lot of loss and struggle this year. And Holy Spirit really ministered to me through these few verses. See, Joseph wasn't ever forgotten. We know this because we know the end of the story. He wasn't forgotten, not by Yahweh. The cupbearer may have forgotten him for a time, but Yahweh never did. Sometimes when we're in the pit, when we're in prison, when we're walking in valleys, it feels like we've been forgotten, like we've been left behind. But our feelings are not facts. Yahweh was always with him. His plan for Joseph was always for good. Suffering and trials and valleys are pretty much a guarantee as part of the human existence. But we do not walk through them alone. Maybe you feel like people you have walked hand in hand with through the valley, maybe they've made their way out. They're on the mountaintop now, and you're left behind. You're still in this place of struggle and suffering, and you feel forgotten by them. Take heart. The cupbearer did remember his offense against Joseph. It took 2 years, but he did remember. Holy Spirit can do that work. He can bring you to mind when the time is right. Don't give up hope. And it's a good reminder to me that if I have been walking through a season of trial and there are others walking with me in that proverbial pit, that when I am pulled up, when I am pulled out, when I am set free, I'm to return for those captives. I need to remember them before my king as the cupbearer remembered Joseph before Pharaoh. That's the gospel. We are saved. We are given freedom through Yeshua, and we don't take that freedom and just go on with our lives. We have to go back for the captives and bring them life and freedom through Yeshua. So I hope that you are encouraged today, that you are not forgotten, and you are not alone. Shabbat shalom.